The goal of my class is to really give you a real-world perspective on how to carry out survey-related projects. So it has a mix of theory, but I really want that theory to be combined with my real-world experiences and to try to prepare students for real-world preservation projects. The goal of the class is to learn the skills you need to survey, evaluate, and designate historic resources. Several key components are involved in this. First off is just learning how to read a building, to understand its components. What are its character-defining features? How has the building evolved? And how can you do a written description of it to convey, what you see visually? How can you put that on paper so that somebody else can understand the building? Second major thing we focus on is how to place a building in context. So in order to understand a building and its history, you need to know why it was built the way it was. What factors, what movements, what technological changes were occurring at the time it was built. And to do that, you really need to understand how to research. So research is a key skill that we'll be covering in the class, learning differences between primary and secondary sources, and really kind of broadening, that scope of research, learning how to both research the individual history of a building as well as to research that contextual history to understand what else was going on at that time. And finally, the key skill you learn in the class is how to evaluate the significance of a building. So when we say significance, we're generally looking at significance for listing in the National Register of Historic Places, and that includes understanding integrity of the building. Does it have, what features remain that convey that significance, and understanding different areas of significance, such as is a building eligible because it has unique architecture, or is it eligible because it was associated with an important historical movement or person. Start out most classes with a presentation on a particular building style, building type, period, to get you familiar with identifying various historic types and styles and thinking about how you put those in a context and understand how they came about. Secondly, we'll move into a discussion of some aspect of technical historic preservation knowledge that you need for survey and recognition and designation, such as discussing the areas of significance or how to evaluate integrity. And finally, we'll have various survey-related activities, class presentations, discussions of reading. We do a lot of work kind of practicing the evaluative skills that you're learning. So a lot of looking at buildings and debating whether or not we think they're eligible, why are they eligible, what's significant about them, to really practice those skills. The key part of the semester will be a class project where you will be going out and applying those skills in some sort of real-world capacity. This is varied. Year to year, we try to take on projects that are of real use to the community. So we kind of see who approaches us and what needs to get done, and that really shapes what we decide to do each year in the class. This year the class is going to be working at South Park City in Fairplay, and we're going to be completing a National Register nomination for South Park City. And South Park City is a kind of recreation of a 1880s era mining town using historic buildings that were moved from across the county in the 1950s. And I think this will provide a great case study for the students to work on, really get into some interesting debates and discussions about what makes a building eligible. South Park City definitely isn't your typical designation. These are all buildings that have been moved, and they're buildings that really aren't so much eligible for what they were originally, but for what they've become. South Park City is now a historic site in its own right, since it's been around for more than 50 years. And we're going to really be focusing on evaluating the significance of South Park City as an outdoor museum representing Western history. So I think that should make for a really fun semester.